She reveals a heartwarming medical bill instead of a report. His incredible response will inspire the entire town. In the cozy town of Maplewood, where every street felt like home, autumn was painting the world in fiery reds and golds. Sarah, a dedicated nurse and a single mother, felt every bit of the weight resting on her shoulders. Each day, she balanced the demands of her job at the local clinic with tender moments spent with her young son, Logan, and women who cherished her mother, repeatedly wrestling with her illness. As the burdens of medical bills piled up, she could hardly find a moment to breathe. This crisp evening, Sarah took a deep breath as she prepared for the community meeting. It was her moment to shine, to share her vision for improved healthcare access. As she walked to the town hall, her heart raced. She could hear the excitement buzzing in the air, familiar faces gathering, eagerly awaiting the evening's discussion. She felt empowered, perhaps for the first time in a long while, but as she stood to speak, her hands trembled. Her heart sank as she fumbled through her papers, accidentally pulling out her own crushing medical bill instead of her prepared report. The room fell silent. A wave of shame washed over her as the ink on the bill felt like it was burning a hole in her gut. What had started as an opportunity to advocate for others had quickly become an unveiling of her own vulnerabilities. Then, a voice sliced through the silence. It was John, the town's revered veteran, known for his unshakable resolve. Rising slowly from his seat, he cleared his throat. "I understand, Sarah," he said softly, gesturing toward her document. "You're not alone." John began to unveil his own story of battles fought within and without, tales of debt and despair that mirrored Sarah's own challenges. Gasps flooded the room. A tangible connection ignited not just between John and Sarah, but among all who listened. Suddenly, the sharing turned into something much bigger. Neighbors began to rise, their voices mingling. A mother spoke of the sleepless nights spent worrying about her child's health, another shared a painful tale of loss and medical expenses. The awkward tension dissolved into an overwhelming wave of understanding. The air became thick with compassion, warmth wrapping around the room as a shared struggle was acknowledged. The moment transformed. Sarah felt her heart swell with more than just hope. It was met with a collective spirit that ignited an unshakable determination among her neighbors. They began brainstorming ways to bring resources into their community, ideas flowing like a river freed from a dam. Maps were drawn on napkins, names taken down right there, right then. They could fight for their rights. Sarah looked around, eyes wide with disbelief mixed with fierce tenacity. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. With newfound energy surrounding her, Sarah and John realized their friendship was budding day by day, promise by promise. Ideas transformed from whispered hopes into fervent plans. They would harness the community's momentum, despite what obstacles lay ahead. What neither saw coming, however, was the opposition from powerful forces intent on maintaining the status quo. The journey toward justice and compassion had just begun, but they had no idea what battles awaited them. Would their unwavering spirit withstand the storm on the horizon? As the meeting drew to a close, Sarah felt a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. The gathering spark had ignited a fierce determination among her neighbors, but with that came uncertainty. All around her, laughter mingled with planning, the scent of hope lingering in the air, yet Sarah's gut twisted at the thought of what lay ahead. Outside, the sunset washed the sky in a deep orange, as if the heavens themselves were cheering them on. Yet, in her heart, shadows danced. A nagging question loomed: could they truly challenge the powerful figures who had kept them in the dark for so long? Days turned into a whirlwind of activity, as Sarah and John found themselves at the epicenter of a burgeoning movement, meeting after meeting, and rallying countless residents. In between shifts at the clinic, Sarah knocked on doors, inviting neighbors to join their crusade. Logan sometimes accompanied her, his innocent enthusiasm reminding her why this fight meant so much. "Mom, are we going to change the world?" he asked one evening, his bright eyes wide with expectation. Sarah smiled, biting back tears at her son's belief in her. "One step at a time, buddy. One step at a time." But as they pushed forward, cracks began to surface in their once united front. Town officials, including the mayor, seemed resistant, citing budget constraints and liabilities. Every hopeful plan Sarah proposed had to withstand scrutiny. A confrontation during one meeting left her in disbelief. A high-ranking board member dismissed the community's need for improved access to healthcare as over-exaggerated. The more they pushed, the more resistance they faced. It felt personal. Every denial punctured Sarah's heart, and yet, as she sat at the table with her fellow residents, she felt their unwavering resolve. "We deserve better," she would say, her voice steady. "These aren't just numbers, they're our lives." One rainy night, while they plotted strategies in John's basement, Sarah could sense the fatigue in the room, a weariness that came from constant fighting. She looked at the faces around her, and the ache in her chest tightened. For a moment, she glimpsed the vulnerability in their determination. "What if we fail?" someone whispered. Murmurs of dread flickered like shadows. "Failure doesn't mean we stop," John interjected, his voice infallible. "It means we adapt. It means we try harder. But we won't do it alone. Together, we're stronger." Emboldened, they resolved to double down. Yet, as they prepared for the upcoming town hall meeting, Sarah felt a new weight settle over her shoulders. She was no longer just a nurse advocating for healthcare, she had become a leader carrying the collective hopes of Maplewood. That night, alone with her thoughts as Logan slept soundly, she filled pages with strategies and ideas, but doubts whispered late into the night. What if their unity faltered? What if the opposition grew more ruthless? As she finally closed her notebook, visions of a better Maplewood flickered in her mind. Schools with health resources, a community that lifted each other up in times of need. But she knew those dreams could become a haunting nightmare if they didn't stay vigilant. With dawn breaking on another crisp morning, Sarah took a deep breath, standing in front of a reflection that stared back with both resolve and fear. Tomorrow's meeting would determine their path forward, either toward triumph or despair. Did they have what it took to rally the town against those in power? What unexpected ally might still come forward to help their cause? As she made her way through the quiet streets, a sense of urgency filled her heart, and she couldn't shake the feeling that a sudden turn awaited them just around the corner. The morning light streamed through the kitchen window, casting warm hues on the worn table where Sarah sat with her coffee. The familiar smell of brewing beans grounded her, but she couldn't shake the jagged anxiety swirling inside her. Today was the day they would present their proposal at the town hall meeting. It felt like stepping onto a tightrope. One wrong move could send everything crashing down. Logan, still in his pajamas, stumbled into the kitchen, his hair a wild mess. He yawned, then smiled at her. "You look strong, Mom. Ready to change the world." Her heart fluttered at his faith, but the weight of responsibility clawed at her. "I hope so, buddy. We'll do our best." She ruffled his hair, grateful for his innocent encouragement, even as her mind whirled with doubts. As they made their way to the town hall, Sarah's thoughts drifted to her fellow residents. Each face she had seen over the past weeks played in her mind like a movie: the elderly couple whose medical bills had threatened to sink them, the young mother whose child struggled to receive the care she needed, the veterans who felt forgotten. They all deserved better, and somehow, she had to convey that urgency to their leaders. The town hall loomed ahead, a nondescript building that usually masked the weight of decision-making within its walls. Sarah tightened her grip on the folding chair she had chosen, wanting something solid to hold on to. Outside, a crowd began to gather, a mix of anxious community members and indifferent officials. "Everyone's here for you," John said, nudging her as he scanned the crowd. His word felt like a lifeline, giving her a momentary surge of hope. Once inside, the chatter faded to a low hum, and the meeting began. Faces from the town council sat behind a long table, and as Sarah and the others lined up to speak, her stomach churned. She took a deep breath, her palms sweaty but determined. As each resident shared their story, Sarah's heart sank deeper with each personal account, but she also felt the fire of their collective spirit rising. Then it was her turn. Standing at the front, she could see the faces swimming in the crowd, each of them waiting for her words. "We are stronger together," she started, her voice steady. "This isn't about numbers. It's about lives, about families, about our future." But as she delved deeper, she spotted one of the town officials scribbling notes with a smirk. That familiar shadow of self-doubt crept back in. Still, she pushed through, her voice rising with passion. "We can no longer accept no without action. This is our moment to make history." A murmur broke out among the crowd, a wave of energy that seeped into her determination. Then she heard it, a familiar voice interjecting from the back. "What she says is true. We've seen someone die because they couldn't afford care." Gasps rippled through the room, and Sarah felt her blood run cold as anger flared in the depth of her gut. Could this be the turning point they needed? She locked eyes with John, who nodded back, his determination mirroring hers. As the applause swelled, the council members exchanged glances filled with unease. Sarah pressed on, the words pouring from her heart. Just as she made her final plea, a shadow flickered past her vision, a familiar face she hadn't expected. It was Paul, the retired firefighter who had always stayed on the sidelines. He stood, his weathered hands gripping the edge of the seating, eyes intense. "Enough is enough," he shouted, echoing her thoughts. "The people of Maplewood deserve better." The tension in the room peaked, an electric charge buzzing in the air, but could it pull them through or shatter under pressure? The moment of truth hung heavy as every member of the town now bore witness to their resolve. Sarah felt a surge of hope as she watched the crowd rally behind Paul's call, but uncertainty still clung tightly to her heart. How far would they go? How far could it reach? Would this finally turn the tide in their favor? As the meeting drew to a close, Sarah stood at the edge of the crowd, only to realize that the real battle might be just beginning. With fresh determination burning in her veins, she took a step forward into the unknown, knowing that freedom could still be a whisper away. The air in the town hall felt electric, alive with palpable energy. Sarah watched as Paul's words resonated through the room, encouraging voices rising in solidarity. Yet, a small kernel of doubt persisted. What if this moment didn't lead to change? What if all her efforts were in vain? "Stay focused," she whispered to herself, pushing negative thoughts aside. Logan tugged at her sleeve, his eyes wide with worry. She knelt down to meet him at eye level. "Mommy's okay," she reassured him, mustering a smile. "I just want to fight for what's right for everyone." He nodded, but the uncertainty was still there. She wanted more than anything to calm his worries, to assure him they would be fine. But the weight of adult concern seeped back into her heart, heavy and unyielding. As the meeting wrapped up, the council members began to deliberate. A hush fell over the crowd. The uncertainty hung thick, almost suffocating. Sarah's fingers drummed nervously against her thigh, each beat a reminder of the desperate need for change echoing through her mind. Moments later, Mayor Thompson stood up, smoothing his shirt as he faced the crowd. "Thank you, everyone, for your passionate testimonials. We will take your words into consideration," he announced, his tone bland, almost rehearsed. There was a pause, and Sarah held her breath, waiting for what came next. "We will discuss these matters further during our next session, which is scheduled." His voice trailed off, and Sarah could sense the disappointment in the air, like a crisp breeze cooling an otherwise warm day. She thought of Logan, of the families that suffered in silence. The town needed action now, not more meetings that led to nowhere. The crowd began to disperse, hope slowly deflating like balloons losing air. Sarah's heart dropped with each retreating figure, their faces reflecting the discouragement she felt deep in her chest. But then Paul stepped forward again, his eyes filled with determination. "Wait!" he called out, halting the crowd mid-exit. "What we just shared today isn't just noise, it's a call for action. We deserve answers now. At his words, the crowd turned, the embers of hope rekindled. Fists clenched, they murmured in agreement, voices rising like a tide. Sarah felt her heart race with renewed fervor. Paul was right, they couldn't back down now. Let us organize, let us keep pushing, she shouted, stepping forward to join him. We need not just promises, but a plan. A timeline. The crowd began to rally, some sisters and brothers clasping hands, children leaning against their parents, and a cry of agreement rippling through everyone present. Sarah felt the energy swirling anew, filling the empty spaces in her heart, bringing warmth where doubt had lingered. Then a small voice piped up from the back, fragile yet strong, but what if they don't listen? What if they just ignore us again? The room fell silent, a collective gasp escaping from pleading lips. Sarah turned to face the voice. It was a young girl, maybe 9 years old, with eyes that shone with a fierce tenacity, echoing the fears that lurked within them all. Do we really want to find out? Sarah asked, meeting the girl's gaze. There was a heartbeat of silence before she continued, we've already seen what silence does. It's time to make ourselves heard. A fire ignited, and one after another, hands shot up. People murmured plans and ideas, and the panic that once seemed inevitable transformed into a robust energy of action. Sarah felt each heartbeat in her chest synchronize with the rhythm of the crowd, the weight lifting just a little. In that moment, she realized the battle had just begun. It wasn't solely about the town council anymore, it was about every individual's strength coming together, like threads woven into an unbreakable fabric. Hope simmered, and Sarah held onto it tightly, ready to navigate whatever came next. As enthusiasm swept them forward, whispers of meeting locations began to buzz. Who will lead us? Where to start? Questions turned to mission statements. Sarah glanced at Paul, his face flushed with purpose. Together, he said firmly, we'll show them who we are. But did they have what it would take to sustain this momentum when faced with silence again? Sarah felt the tension reformulate, a potent question settling in her gut like an anchor. A question that lingered: if they stepped out into the world beyond Maplewood, would they be brave enough to forge ahead, no matter the odds? Suddenly, everything felt even more significant. It was about to get tougher than she had imagined, and she stood at the edge of a new beginning, ready to dive headfirst into the unknown. The excitement in the air felt almost tangible, a flame ignited by unity and purpose. As the crowd began to mingle, Sarah watched familiar faces transform. Friends and neighbors, once passive, were now animated with a shared mission. She couldn't help but smile at the sight, each conversation a thread tying them together, weaving an intricate tapestry of desire for change. Paul moved through the throng, rallying people with a vigor that was infectious. Sarah stayed close to Logan, who was now fidgeting with a toy car he'd brought along. She felt a flicker of guilt as she watched him. The little boy should have been playing in the park, carefree, yet here they were, engulfed in adult worries. Would you like to say something, sweetie? Sarah knelt to him again, her voice gentle. Logan looked up, uncertainty dancing in his eyes. What if they don't listen, Mommy? He shifted on his feet, worries swirling just like those of the adults around him. She cupped his face in her hands, forcing calm into her own voice. What if they do? Think about all those people out there who feel the same way we do. We're not alone, and together, we are strong. We'll bring our voices together. Logan seemed to consider her words for a moment before nodding. There was still fear in his gaze, but perhaps a tiny spark of hope began to flicker as well. As the evening wore on, discussions morphed into laughter and camaraderie. Sarah reveled in the moments of connection, but a nagging thought tugged at her. What if the spirit of today faded when tomorrow came? She felt compelled to capture this moment, to remind them all of the fire they'd ignited. Listen up, everyone. Sarah called out, her voice cutting through the chatter. Silence settled again, their focus shifting back to her. I know it's easy to get swept away right now, but we need to commit. We're not just a crowd, we're a community, and every single one of us matters. Her heart pounded as she spoke. Let us make a plan. Let us meet again in 2 days. We'll gather our ideas, our voices, and take them to the streets. Let us show the council we mean business. Yeah. Someone shouted from the crowd, causing a ripple of agreement with cheers and claps filling the air. Around her, people began nodding, fervor rekindled. A few began pulling out their phones, making plans to organize online, suggesting venues to meet. It was then she noticed a woman she'd seen at the meetings before, arms crossed, a batch of unresolved tension etched across her brow. What is your name? Sarah asked, turning to the woman. Debbie, she replied, cautiously. Debbie, what is holding you back? Debbie's brow furrowed deeper as she surveyed the crowd. I'm just not sure this will actually lead to anything. We've tried before and gotten nowhere. Sarah stepped closer, feeling the weight of Debbie's spirit. Maybe we haven't had everyone's voices united before. This is different. We are different. Don't you feel it? Silence framed Debbie's face, a furrow of pondering drifting across her features. Then, a glimmer of something maybe hope passed through her eyes. I do feel it, she whispered, her voice shaky as if the weight of her doubts was finally lifting. As discussions resumed, Sarah knew that this was just the beginning. They were taking the first steps toward claiming a destiny they could redefine together. She felt a swell of confidence and warmth wrap around her, fueling her passion. Yet, she couldn't shake the worry. What if they faced more obstacles? What if they were shot down? The ghosts of doubt loomed, but beneath them, a steely resolve rose. Deep down, Sarah understood that change demanded resilience. It wouldn't be easy. It never was. But the sacrifices would be worth it, for Logan, for Debbie, for everyone who deserved to be heard and seen. As she turned to look at Logan, pride welled up within her. She could fight this fight, not just for herself, but for him, for a better tomorrow. With a newfound fire in her heart, she thought to herself they had to be brave enough to stand tall, even against the odds. Wherever this journey led, she would face whatever came next, together with her community. Just then, a text chimed on her phone, shattering her thoughts. When she glanced at it, dread washed over her. It was from an unknown number, and it read simply, "You shouldn't have stirred the pot. It's not just the council you'll need to worry about." A chill ran down her spine. What had she gotten herself into? The chill lingered, wrapping around Sarah like a dark blanket. She stared at the message, her heart racing. The words threatened to pull her into an abyss of anxiety. What kind of threat was this? Who could be behind it? She quickly scanned the gathering around her, searching for a familiar face amidst the sea of strangers. Mommy? Logan's small voice broke through her turbulent thoughts. She knelt down, forcing a smile. Are you okay? Yeah, sweetie, just a little tired. She brushed off the worry, but her mind raced, intertwining her anxiety with the energy of the crowd. Let us stay positive, okay? We're doing something good here. Logan nodded, his trust still shining in those innocent eyes, but she noticed his toy car slipping from his fingers. Perhaps he sensed her unease. Encouraged by his words, Sarah pushed the unsettling text into the back of her mind for the moment. She stood up, trying to soak in the hopeful atmosphere. Hey, everyone! Paul's voice came booming through, vibrant and filled with enthusiasm. We'll meet again in 2 days. But don't just stop talking now. Tell your friends, your families. Let us start spreading this energy everywhere. Cheers erupted again, resonating against the cool evening air. Sarah felt the warmth surging back, resonating through the community that surrounded her. As conversations resumed, she felt a pull towards Debbie, still standing at the edge, trying to blend into the crowd. The flicker of hope she had seen in her eyes earlier was still there, albeit reluctant. Debbie! Sarah called, weaving through the crowd to reach her. Come on, let us talk ideas. Debbie hesitated, but something glimmered in her eyes as she stepped forward. Okay, but what if it only leads to disappointment again? That's the risk we all take, right? Sarah replied, her voice steady. But if we sit back in fear, we're guaranteed nothing will change. Trust me, I've faced plenty of disappointments in life. What matters is how we rise up after each one. Together. Debbie opened her mouth as if to argue but then paused, a flicker of conviction igniting. So what do we do next? Before Sarah could answer, a loud commotion erupted from the back of the crowd. Heads turned, voices hushed, and Sarah's heart sank as she saw people pointing. There's a ruckus over there, Paul shouted, trying to quiet the crowd's murmurs. Let us stay calm. But the unease spiked again when a couple of angry figures appeared at the fringes, making their way toward the gathering. Sarah felt her stomach flip. The tension was palpable. What is happening? Logan whispered, gripping her hand tighter, his innocence still wrapped around the earlier excitement. Just stay close to me, all right? We'll be okay, she reassured him, though uncertainty gnawed at her insides. As the group of angry individuals approached, the positivity that had soaked the air thickened with foreboding. Sarah glanced at Paul, seeing his expression shift to one of determination. Let us not lose our momentum, he called out again, this time with a fierce edge. We are here for change, and we will not be intimidated. His words sparked a wave of courage through her. Together, they could face anything. But as the voices grew louder, a thick tension filled the atmosphere, ready to burst. Did they have the strength? Could they stand united, not just against their fears, but against those who sought to silence them? The moment felt charged, and Sarah held her breath. What would happen next? Logan's grip tightened around her hand, and she felt her heart pound, that text echoing in her mind. They had ignited something beautiful, but could they uphold it in the face of rising storms? And as she prepared to face this new challenge, one question lingered: what if the fight for their voices would lead them directly into the dark unknown? The crowd shifted uneasily, eyes darting from Paul to the approaching figures. Their anger hung in the air, thick and suffocating, like a heavy fog rolling in. Sarah felt her heart slam against her ribs, a feral pulse of fear mixing with adrenaline. Logan squeezed her hand tighter, his tiny fingers trembling just slightly. Stay put, okay? She whispered to him, forcing her voice to sound calm even as her insides writhed. Paul took a step forward, standing tall. We are here discussing our hopes, our dreams for a better community. Whatever you have to say, let us talk about it. His voice broke through the tension, ringing with unexpected strength. The group, clad in dark hoodies and scowls, paused for a moment, clearly surprised by his defiance. Sarah held her breath. Would this confrontation escalate? One of the figures, a tall man with a baseball cap pulled low, stepped out. You all think you can just come in here and change things? You don't know what it's like to really struggle. His voice boomed, raw and bitter. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Sarah felt the warmth she had hoped to share with those around her shift into something colder. Anger was echoing back, twisting their initial excitement into a sense of conflict. We know struggle. A voice rang out from the back of the crowd, a woman who stepped forward with intent. We've all faced setbacks and heartbreak. That's why we want this change. No. You want change for yourselves. The man shot back, and the tension escalated, voices rising. Logan clutched at Sarah's leg, eyes wide. The world of adults was becoming a battlefield, and his innocence was a fragile thing. She knelt down, looking him in the eye, pushing back the flood of anxiety. It's okay to feel scared, honey. Just remember, we're strong together. He nodded, but the worry didn't ease from his face, and it made Sarah's heart ache. Would this wave of rage sweep them away? Paul took another step forward, visibly trying to maintain control. We need to listen to each other. That's how we find a path forward, together. Can we at least talk? Silence fell momentarily as the crowd stood still. The air crackled with unresolved tension, a powerful reminder that not everyone viewed change as an option. As the man scoffed, ready to retort, Debbie pushed through the crowd to stand beside Paul. "You're not alone," she shouted, her voice ringing clear. "We have all had enough of feeling invisible. You'd be amazed at how change can affect lives." The man faltered, caught off guard by her defiance. Sarah felt a flicker of hope ignite inside her. Could they truly reach through the anger? A voice chimed in from the side, another local, speaking in quiet assurance. "I've struggled too, but I want something better for my kids." All around, more and more voices began to join in, like pieces of a puzzle sliding into place. Her heart soared but was still weighed down by the lingering anxiety. "Maybe the fight isn't just for our voices, or our desires but for understanding," Sarah muttered, mostly to herself. She fought for clarity, for a way to bridge this gap between fear and hope. Suddenly, the boy beside her named Alex, just a few years older than Logan, stepped up. "You don't have to shout to be heard. Let us figure this out together." The man stood, taken aback, not prepared for such a brave declaration. The energy shifted. Debates on both sides swirled, but something deeper was unfolding, an opportunity for dialogue. Sarah felt her pulse calm for the first time, but would they have the courage to truly engage? Could the fight for understanding be more powerful than the fight for dominance? Logan looked up, his tiny face illuminated by the soft glow of the dimming sunlight, full of newfound hope. "Mom, are we going to be okay?" She smiled, though a knot remained in her stomach. "We've got this, buddy. Just remember, those who fight for something better will always keep pushing forward." And as the first glimmers of resolution began to form, a new, more pressing question loomed large: what if the real battle was only just beginning? The atmosphere simmered with anticipation as voices collided, creating a cacophony of opinions fighting for dominance. Each word hung in the air, adding weight to an already tumultuous situation. Sarah felt the tension climb, thick and tangible, while Logan clung to her side, his young mind grasping fragments of the fierce conversation swirling around them. "Let us not make this personal," Paul urged, his eyes scanning the crowd, searching for anyone to respond without hostility. Debbie stepped in, her hands raised in a calming gesture. "There's enough hurt to go around," she began, her voice softer now. "If we're going to move forward, we need to talk about our shared experiences, not just our differences." The tall man with the cap shifted his weight, clearly struggling against the stirrings of understanding beginning to emerge from the crowd. Sarah's heart fluttered. Could this actually be a breakthrough? A few people, still wrapped in anger, exchanged glances, perhaps reconsidering their stance. As the momentum built around Paul and Debbie's words, the murmurs transformed into dialogue. Voices were no longer shouts, they were conversations. Bit by bit, the anger began to dissolve, setting a foundation for something new. Sarah caught snippets of stories from the crowd, what they had lost, what they hoped to achieve. They poured out their hearts, revealing wounds and aspirations that resonated with the struggles she knew all too well. "I just want my kids to grow up safe," an older man confessed. "I want a neighborhood that doesn't feel like a prison." A nodding chorus followed, as heads began to tilt toward acceptance. The fatigue of fighting alone hung heavy in the air, but at that moment, something shifted. They recognized their shared pain, making them allies instead of opponents. Logan gazed up at Sarah as if processing this unexpected transformation. His small face reflected a mix of hope and confusion. "Mom, does that mean they might listen?" The question hit her hard, igniting a spark of determination. "Yes, love, I think they might be ready to listen," she replied. The warmth spreading through her chest was a strange invitation to soar above the chaos, riding the waves of unity. Still, a nagging worry lingered in the back of her mind. What if this wasn't enough? What if the waves crashed again, stronger than before? But as Debbie and Alex continued to chip away at the barriers, new voices joined them, forming an unbreakable band. But just as she dared to relax, the man with the cap, ever the symbol of rugged defiance, stepped back into the spotlight. "All right then, let us see if we can find common ground. But don't think for a second I'm giving in. We're not just pawns in your game. His retort pulled the collective breath from the crowd, doubt threatening to bite back. How would they respond to this challenge? Don't you see? Paul countered, his voice strong yet humble, we're all in this together. If we don't start with understanding, we'll never make the changes we want. The energy began to oscillate, the crowd summoning courage to bridge the gap between confrontation and collaboration. But would their newfound resolve hold, or would they drift back into the shadows of fear and mistrust? Sarah held her breath, eyes locked on Paul as he continued to push. Would this moment of clarity carry enough weight to steer them forward? Logan squeezed her hand, the lingering fear still present but tinged with the belief that something was shifting. Just then, she caught sight of a familiar face breaking through the crowd, someone who had been missing for too long. Wait, is that? The crowd's attention diverted as Sarah turned, her heart racing. What new twist had just walked back into their lives? The crowd parted ever so slightly, revealing a woman with a familiar silhouette. Sarah squinted, her heart pounding. Could it really be? She hadn't seen Claire in years. Claire, with her vibrant red hair and contagious laugh, had always been a beacon of light in their community. But news of her departure had shaken everyone. Claire! Sarah shouted, unable to keep her voice down. The crowd momentarily hushed, watching her like a movie scene frozen in time. Claire looked up, surprise painting her features. She paused, scanning the faces that surrounded her, uncertainty flickering in her eyes, then a warm smile spread across her face. It was like the sun breaking through a stormy sky. Sarah! I didn't know you were here. She exclaimed, rushing forward, their embrace felt like a lifeline, bringing back memories, the neighborhood barbecues, the laughter-filled nights on porch swings, and the unwavering support during tough times. Tears stung Sarah's eyes as she pulled away, searching Claire's face for any hint of why she was back. Where have you been? Sarah struggled to keep her voice steady. We've missed you. Claire hesitated, glancing at Logan before she responded. Life took me away, but I kept hearing about what has been happening here. It just pulled me back, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I wanted to see for myself. Things are rough, Claire, Sarah admitted, her stomach tightening. We're trying to bridge gaps, to find a way forward together. But there's so much anger and fear. Claire nodded as she glanced around the crowd, her expression shifting thoughtfully. Yeah, I've seen anger in my new city too. But I've also seen how people can come together when they share their stories. Paul stepped closer, sensing the shift. We could use some fresh perspectives, he said, his tone welcoming. A lot has happened since you left. As Claire shared her experiences and observations, Sarah felt the crowd quietly lean in, captivated. Claire spoke with passion about healing communities, about finding hope through shared struggles. Her anecdotes wove threads of connection among the listeners, further stitching open wounds that had threatened to tear them apart. I learned that understanding frequently begins with vulnerability, Claire explained. Admitting pain, sharing joy, the more we see each other as we truly are, the harder it becomes to stay divided. A ripple of acknowledgement went through the crowd. An older woman, her face lined with years of hardship, wiped a tear from her cheek. I always thought neighbors were just that people who lived next door. But we're all more than that, aren't we? Yes. Claire replied, her enthusiasm infectious. We're a part of each other's stories, no matter how far apart we've been. Logan's grip on Sarah's hand tightened, as if he could sense the warmth flooding through the group. A sense of hope filled their space, stitching together voices that had been at odds, but just as Sarah began to feel a flicker of relief, the tall man with the cap sneered, "And what makes you think your story matters to us? We've seen too much hurt to trust a newcomer." Silence fell again, heavy and weighted. Sarah's heart sank. Would this pushback extinguish the hope that was finally stirring? Claire stepped forward with grace, unflinching. Because we all have stories worth telling. We all have burdens to share. And when we listen, that's when healing starts. The man paused, caught off guard by her resolve. Sarah held her breath, praying that his skepticism could shift, that he could see they were nearing the brink of something beautiful. As the crowd hummed with murmurs, Sarah felt the energy crackling again, a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Could this moment lead somewhere new? Claire's return had sparked something deep within Sarah, igniting thoughts on the bridges they might build together. But the question loomed heavy over them: would they take the next step, or would the old fears dictate their future all over again? Maybe. Sarah began hesitantly, if we could gather our stories, show how they interweave, we could discover a common journey. But before she could finish, a deep voice from the crowd boomed, and why should we trust each other at all? Every eye turned expectantly toward that voice, heartbeats quickening, waiting for the unfolding. Would the trust be mended, or would it shatter once more? The tension was palpable, each heartbeat echoing in the silence that followed the accusation. Sarah felt her heart thud loudly in her chest, but deep down, a small spark ignited. Because we all felt pain, she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. We cried tears for things we can't change. But we are standing here, ready to listen and to share. Isn't that what builds trust? The tall man in the cap regarded her with skepticism, but a flicker of contemplative doubt crossed his face. You speak of togetherness, he said slowly, but can it really change anything? History tells us otherwise. History? Claire stepped closer, her tone calm yet resolute. It can be rewritten, just like our futures. It starts with our willingness to share, to see each other for who we truly are. She looked at the crowd, emphasizing, we can choose how we respond. Will we respond with resentment or empathy? Slowly, murmurs of agreement began to surface, echoing Claire's sentiments. We've faced walls before, an older woman finally spoke, her voice ringing with gravitas, but we can climb them together. Sarah's breath caught in her throat, hope bloomed like a flower breaking through concrete. Every single one of us has a role to play, she urged. If we can just lay down our fears for a moment and focus on what we desire: connection, understanding, and change, we can create real impact. The crowd began to shift, some nodding, others still grappling with uncertainty. Paul seized the moment. Why don't we take a small step now? Each of you has a voice. Share your story, your vision for our community. It's time to unite. Encouraged, a few individuals stood up, hesitant but willing. One by one, they shared experiences about losing a loved one, about feeling invisible, about financial burdens that had shattered families. The air felt lighter as their words connected in a tapestry of shared humanity. Logan, still gripping Sarah's hand, whispered, Mom, can they really come together? Yes, sweetheart, she replied, her heart swelling with pride. Look at them. One voice led to another, a ripple that mirrored the waves of autumn leaves falling outside, as if the entire town were synchronizing to a new rhythm of hope. Even the cynical faces began to soften, an understanding stretching through the gathering like a warm breeze. Then, it happened, the man with the cap, his expression softening, raised a hand. I have struggled too, he stammered. I've lost people and I've made decisions out of desperation. His voice quivered, revealing a vulnerability that hadn't been there before. I thought I was alone. Gasps and murmurs filled the room, compassion pouring out like sunlight after a storm. One by one, others who once seemed distant pushed aside their fear and shared their truths, weaving bonds that overshadowed their past grievances. That's it. Claire's voice gleamed with excitement. This is the spirit of Maplewood, that we need compassion across differences. In that moment, everything changed. It became evident the town wasn't just a collection of houses, it was a vibrant quilt made from every single person standing together. They were all connected, not just by struggles, but by dreams of a brighter tomorrow. As words turned to planning, Sarah felt herself beaming with pride. Let us keep pushing for what we deserve. Together, she urged, we are a force. An overwhelming chorus of agreement filled the room, and Sarah felt tears pooling in her eyes. They had faced darkness but chose light instead, they had chosen connection over division. Outside, as the sun began to set, casting hues of orange and violet across the sky, the air in the town hall buzzed with renewed excitement. The shadows of uncertainty began to fade, replaced by a cascading hope that swept through everyone present. Within the sea of changed faces, she found Logan looking up at her. His eyes sparkled with the same belief he had held early on as they carried on this journey together. "Mom, we really did it," he exclaimed, a wide grin splitting his face. "Yes, we did, buddy." Sarah knelt to embrace him. Laughter bubbling from both of them. It wasn't just a win for them, it was a win for every heart that had felt unheard. And as they stepped forward into a future as one united community, she knew deep down that they could rewrite their own story together. Maplewood was home, and together, they could heal, grow, and change the world, one heart at a time. Now is the time to join this inspiring journey. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and amplify our message. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending and make your voice heard. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Show your support for our community. Your involvement is what makes all the difference.